Well, welcome to another edition of Commissioner's Corner. I'm Josh Brown, Kitsap County Commissioner from Central Kitsap, and I'm here again with Shar Burnett from BCAT. And as usual, Shar, I think you have some tough questions for me about what's happening in the county.
Yeah, I have a whole list, and we're going to start with the roundabout that is at the intersection of Silverdale Way, Chico Way, and Newberry Hill Road. Why did the county do that project?
Well, we didn't construct the Silverdale roundabout to drive people crazy. That's one. That's definitely why we didn't do it. Actually, this project has been on the county's plans for a while, and we actually have a plan of attack on two major corridors in Silverdale to help widen those roads and help improve, help reduce congestion, help improve mobility over time. The two roads that we're focused on are improvements to Buckland Hill Road and improvements from the Newberry Hill off-ramps into town along Silverdale Way. So a couple years ago, the county did a corridor study from Anderson Hill Road, where it hits Silverdale Way in Silverdale. You'll probably kind of know that area because it's right in front of the Jenny Wright Administration Building for Central Kitsap Schools. From that area all the way out to the Newberry Hill off-ramp, Silverdale Way goes from 5 lanes eventually down to 2. And that's a corridor where we know we have some real congestion challenges over time. So the county did a corridor study for this area, and we looked at how would we widen this corridor over time. And of course, this is a pretty long corridor. It's complicated because a lot of the right-of-way isn't owned by the county today. We'd have to purchase it. It's also complicated when you get along the bluffs along Silverdale Way as it turns towards Chico. You have some significant slope issues. So it's a pretty complicated area. The Silverdale roundabout is phase 1 of being able to put the improvements in place to be able to widen this corridor. So we've known for some time that we have some real deficiencies at this intersection. If you live on Chico Way and you're trying to make a left-hand turn towards Newberry Hill, it's nearly impossible during peak periods. And conversely, if you're coming from Silverdale and trying to hang a left onto Chico Way, it's very challenging during afternoon commute periods particularly. So we knew we had to do something to be able to control traffic at this intersection. And we had two options. We could put in a traffic signal, and we could design that traffic signal in any way we could, or, and doing a lot of community outreach, the other option was to build a roundabout. The nice part about a roundabout is it really does become a gateway entrance into Silverdale. And I think when folks are coming into our community, the Newberry Hill off-ramp is one of our prime off-ramps into Silverdale. We're going to have a wonderful welcome to Silverdale sign. I think it's going to be aesthetically a nice gateway into our community. But the way we designed that roundabout is right now it allows 1 lane of traffic in each direction to utilize a roundabout. It's designed for 2 lanes of traffic in each direction.
Okay, good.
So the county's plan, now that we have the roundabout completed, we're turning our attention to putting improvements on Silverdale Way from Anderson Hill Road to Byron Street in Old Town. That portion of Silverdale Way, we don't have sidewalks. When you get to Byron Street, we have some real opportunities to be able to put drop lanes in place for folks to be able to get to Old Town Silverdale and help to improve traffic flow. That would be phase 2 of widening the corridor. The final phase of widening the corridor, and that project, I have to say, that's in the planning stages. The final improvement that we would need to move forward with is by far the most expensive, and that would be widening Silverdale Way from the roundabout to Old Town Silverdale from 2 lanes to 4. And again, that's the area where we have significant challenges with the slopes and with the hillsides, but we have a corridor plan which has given us several alternatives to look at how we can eventually widen that corridor to 4 lanes. So to answer your question succinctly, we did this roundabout project because this will allow us in the future to widen this road and help improve mobility in Silverdale. It's phase 1 of being able to meet that objective.
I've gone through there a few times, and I find it to be, I think roundabouts in our community are fabulous. It keeps traffic flowing.
Right.
It deletes the stoplight need and keeps traffic moving. I thought, I read in the paper recently someone made a comment to make sure drivers use their signals. If you're going to leave the roundabout, use your signal. If you're going to keep going, use your signal. So it's just an educational piece, and I think they're a fabulous addition to our community.
Yeah, they have pros and cons, and I think at every intersection the county is going to evaluate what makes sense. When you have 3 points of egress, that tends to work out pretty well for roundabouts. When you have 4 points of egress, such as what they have in Gig Harbor, it gets pretty confusing fast.
Yeah,
And it gets pretty pretty complicated fast. But I think that intersection makes a lot of sense. And again, it's designed so that we can eventually widen this corridor, and it's gonna allow the county to be able to break this corridor up into phases to be able to do the widening projects. You know, we may have an opportunity down the road to be able to widen from the roundabout to the freeway to 4 lanes. And again, going into Old Town Silverdale, adding drop lanes. So this is the county's focus through these complicated corridors. We need to widen roads. We need to improve mobility and reduce congestion. But the county nor any of our cities have the ability to go out and just widen a road from 2 lanes to 4 or 2 lanes to 5 overnight. We have to break it up into phases. And this is going to allow us to do that.
Yeah, great,
So-
great. Let's stay on transportation and talk about the fast ferry.
Sure.
And what's happening with that. Kitsap Transit's spending a lot of time and energy and money. And what is the county's take? What's your take on the fast ferry situation?
Well, the fast ferry's been an endeavor that Kitsap Transit's been working on for many years. And I'm currently the longest serving member of our transit board at 6 years. The work on the fast ferry and doing their wake research through Rich Passage supersedes my tenure on the
Right,
transit board.
right.
It's been going on for almost 10 years. We've reached a point where I think we can honestly say we finally have hit a massive success in terms of being able to have a boat designed, engineered, built that can operate through Ridge Passage without eroding the beaches, both on the Port Orchard side and on the Bainbridge Island side. So it's taken a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of support from our federal legislators, particularly Congressman Dix and Senator Murray, to provide those resources at the local level to be able to deal with these issues. But we're there. And November 1st or November 2nd is the last day that the Rich Passage 1, our passenger-only ferry, will be running, doing their test runs. After the completion of this testing period, we're going to be going back and completing the reports necessary to be able to verify that indeed the beaches aren't being eroded. But I have to say, I've ridden the boat as a commuter, and we got to, as board members of transit, be able to go on the boat, be able to go see it being built, et cetera. Several weeks ago, I used the boat on a opportunity to go over to Seattle in the morning for some meetings, and it was absolutely packed. And when I went on that run, and looking at all the commuters that were using the service that morning, my impression was, if you would have told somebody this is just a test run and the service has only been operating for a few weeks, I don't think somebody who didn't know all the facts would believe you, because the way that transit was able to get that service up and running, I think if you talk to any of the commuters, and I've talked to many of them, that really enjoys the service. It creates a great service level for the city of Bremerton, for Port Orchard, for residents of Central Kitsap, something that we need. And I think if we can put together a financially sustainable and responsible plan to operate the service, I think we can get community support. In the past, when transit's gone to the voters for support for the passenger-only ferries, we haven't been able to answer the fundamental question: can you operate a boat through Rich Passage without causing a lawsuit? I think we're going to be able to answer that question positively and say we can operate a boat. This is a service, and here's a business plan that's sustainable. And I think I guess the other thing to add to this is, yet again, we have a response from Washington State Ferries, which frankly is providing recommendations on reducing levels of service for Bremerton because they're not getting adequate funding from the legislature. Once again, we're going to be going into this upcoming session where Washington State Ferries is talking about eliminating midday runs in Bremerton.
Yeah,
They're
not
talking about eliminating late evening runs. So
That's terrible.
So I think we have to, we've been playing defense for many years because the legislature, since the motor vehicle excise tax was reduced via initiative, the legislature has never put in sustainable funding for Washington State Ferries. Never. And they haven't done it for operations, they haven't done it for the capital plan. And every year we go back down to the legislature, all the county commissioners, the mayor of Bremerton, the mayor of Port Orchard, all of our local leadership here in Kitsap County, working with our legislators, trying to defend our community from these cuts, which are going to be real and are going to have a significant impact on the health of our community. So I think we also, along with trying to get that sustainable funding for our Bremerton route for Washington State Ferries, I think there's a real opportunity for us to look at our passenger-only ferry service, which can supplement Washington State Ferries to put sustainable service in place. And frankly, I think at the end of the day, it's about growing our local economy. And if folks think that having a unreliable ferry service to Bremerton, a ferry service where during the middle of the day, you're going to have several hours where if you go to Seattle or if you come over to Bremerton, you won't be able to get home or get back to a meeting across the water. If folks think that having unreliable, inadequate ferry service is going to grow our economy in Bremerton and in central Kitsap and in our county, they're missing the boat, literally. So I'm a big believer that we need to put a strong financial plan in place, but first we have to complete this wake research. We're finally near the finish line. And again, having ridden the boat with commuters several times, my sense is that the community support, seeing is believing, and seeing that this can be a service that can have a profound positive impact on our community. I hope that sometime next year we'll be in a position where as a transit board, we can talk about how can we get this service running permanently.
Good. Do you know how many people fit on the passenger-only ferry? How many?
I think it's 112 or 118. It's a little north of 100.
So let's think about people coming out of a Mariners game, a Seahawks game, although the Seahawks don't usually play late at night, but numerous Mariners games are in the evening, and the game, a lot of us that go to the games are looking at our watch because we need to make that last ferry. If that ferry is eliminated, it impacts us tremendously. Sports fans, cultural arts fans, you're going to a show at the Paramount, the Fifth Avenue, you're going over to socialize, meet friends for dinner. It is a huge impact to lose that ferry, the 10:30 or 10 o'clock at night ferry. It would impact us tremendously, and especially businesses. So we need, I know many folks are ready to rally, and there's got to be alternatives.
Right. Well, and again, I think one of the alternatives is for us to look at how can we have this sustainable passenger-only ferry. It's part of the suite of solutions to move people. And again, it's, you mentioned about the late night run, and you're right. If we don't have those runs in the latter part of the evening, if you live in Bremerton, or if you live in Port Orchard, or possibly if you live in East Bremerton or Silverdale, you're probably not going to be taking your kids to a Mariners game ever again in the evenings.
Or you're forced to go to Bainbridge.
And
park and get on that ferry.
But if you're from Port Orchard,
that's a
and
long drive.
I know from my house in Silverdale, if I'm driving to the Bainbridge Island Ferry Terminal, I usually try to give myself, especially if it's in the morning, or trying to deal with commute traffic, I give myself an hour. I give myself a half hour to drive to Bremerton to the ferry. I give myself an hour to get to Bainbridge, just so I know I'm going to get on the boat, can park, pay, if I want to buy a cup of coffee. And if you're in Port Orchard, the notion of driving to Bainbridge to be able to take your kids to a Mariners game, I mean, you're just not going to do it. This is a pretty serious issue, but I think the wake research, again, we're near the finish line finally after many years. The boat is first class. And now I think it's incumbent upon the transit board over the course of the next year to figure out how do we put together a responsible financing plan. And I think part of that is ensuring that a passenger-only ferry boat in Bremerton, which will serve the central part of our community, that it complements Washington State ferries. And I think we can do that.
Excellent. Great discussion.
Sure.
Well, let's stay on the topic of economic development and KEDA and CADA and
Too many acronyms.
there's a lot of acronyms. Tell us who all these folks are and what their importance is.
See, we find people in the commissioner's office for too many acronyms.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So we would have made $8 off of you there for each acronym.
Oh,
No.
oh.
So we have, you mentioned KEDA and CADA. So KEDA is our Kitsap Economic Development Alliance. John Powers is our director of KEDA. And the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance, if you go to Pierce County, if you go to King County, if you go to the city of Renton, a lot of other jurisdictions have somebody who's a director level position working in that government agency responsible for economic development. The path we've taken in Kitsap County is different. Instead of having an economic development director for the city of Bremerton and for Kitsap County and for the city of Paulsbo, John Powers, the director for KEDA, is the economic development director for our entire community. That allows us to focus on how do we work together. Because if there's a business that relocates or expands out by the port of Bremerton, or if there's a business that expands or grows on Bainbridge Island or in Paulsbo or in Silverdale, it benefits our whole community at the end of the day. So this helps galvanize and focus us. CADA is the Kitsap Aerospace and Defense Alliance. Really in partnership with KEDA, in partnership with the Port of Bremerton, the county, our cities, we formed this Aerospace and Defense Alliance about a year ago to be able to look at how do we do a better job of growing jobs related to aerospace and the defense industry here in Kitsap County. Boeing right now is in a significant period of production increase at the Renton and Everett plants. In fact, if you just look at Renton, where every 737 is built on the planet, and the 737 is by far the most
workhorse.
successful airplane built for commercial aviation. That plant in Renton is going to increase production by 40% over the next few years. 40%. And they're going to look at similar increases at the 777 line and of course the 787 ramp up in Everett. And of course, because we're able to have the tankers being built here in Washington State up in Everett, those 767 fuselages that will be the tankers will be built there as well. Significant production increases. Well, if you have 40% more 737s built in Renton, you're going to need 40% greater supplies and services from the supply chain. And one of the real assets that we have in the central Puget Sound and frankly in the state of Washington is we have hundreds of companies that are small, medium-sized companies that are helping the supply chain for Boeing. So Boeing's the big gorilla, They're the big company like Microsoft or General Motors or
Right.
Whatever companies you look at. But Boeing relies on the supply chain and these hundreds of businesses in Washington State to ensure that they can build the wings, ensure that they have the electronic components, ensure that they have all the components needed to be able to build these planes. We think in Kitsap County that while right now we don't have a large aerospace cluster, we think that as that production is being ramped up in Renton and Everett for Boeing, we think there's an enormous opportunity to be able to grow businesses in Kitsap County that are part of that aerospace consortium. We also think that we have some great opportunities, the fact that the Navy is the largest employer in our county, to be able to have businesses that help provide supplies and services to the Navy and to the Defense Department to be able to grow in our county. So the Kitsap Aerospace and Defense Alliance is the partnership between the county, the cities, the port, all the public partners in our community joining with the private sector to figure out how do we grow jobs here. And I think the thing that I've learned, which is I think a tremendous success and maybe we don't talk about as much in our county, one of the big assets that we have in Kitsap County to be able to grow these aerospace and defense jobs is Olympic College. Olympic College, the model that Olympic College has in terms of providing the workforce to a large extent for the shipyard. When you look at the apprenticeship programs that have been rejuvenated in close partnership with Olympic College, I've spoken with high-level people at the Boeing company who say, when you look at the best model to have folks get the training necessary to be an effective worker, skilled work in the trades, the best model we've seen is Olympic College and the work that they do in partnership with the Navy and the shipyard.
Great.
So we want to figure out ways that we can take the great work that Olympic College is doing, because we think that if you're being trained as a machinist or a pipe fitter or an electrician or whatever the trade is, if you're being trained through these programs and partnerships with Olympic College to work at the shipyard, work on nuclear submarines or aircraft carriers, we think that that same machinist can also go and get that skill set and the training necessary to be able to work in aerospace. There's certification requirements, and there's things that we need to do differently, but the foundation is there. The other really exciting thing, and just yesterday, in my capacity as president of the Puget Sound Regional Council, we had the president of Washington State University, Elson Floyd, come and speak to our council about the work that Washington State University is doing. Because we're west of the Cascades, we oftentimes think about the impact that just University of Washington has on our regional economy. But the fact is, Washington State University has a pretty significant role that they've played, and they're going, and that's increasing. In Everett right now, Washington State is working with the city and the county to be able to put engineering programs in place. And at Olympic College, we've been able to double the number of mechanical engineering slots. So students can go to Olympic College, they can go to Olympic College, get a 2-year associate's degree, and then they can merge right into the 4-year program to get a mechanical engineering degree
Right at home.
from Washington State University. And in fact, the opportunity to be able to double those engineering slots was because Governor Gregoire, to her credit, and through support from the legislature, decided in this past session to double the number of engineering slots available in communities. And I think when that happened, when the governor talked about we need more engineers to help support Boeing and aerospace and high-tech fields, I think a lot of folks thought, well, there's going to be more classroom space available in Seattle and in Pullman. Not true. There's more engineering slots in Seattle and Pullman to some extent, but there's also engineering slots being created in Everett. There's engineering slots being created, in Tacoma or down in Vancouver. And in Bremerton, in Kitsap County, we've doubled the number of engineering slots. So David Mitchell gets, in my mind, should get a lot of credit for his leadership. And one of the things I'm proud of is we've been able now to get him on the board for the Economic Development District in the 4-county region of King, Kitsap, Pierce, and Snohomish. So he's a leader in here in our community, and we're putting him in a place where the great work that Olympic College is doing locally in Bremerton, he can help figure out opportunities for us at the regional level to be able to grow jobs in our community.
That's excellent. Josh, we're getting a little bit short on time. Let's wrap up and hear about the county budget, and I'll let you wrap up your show.
Right, wrap up on a high note.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Things do look better for next year, financially, but there's going to have to be some give and take.
Well, this is the first year I've been commissioner where revenues are slightly higher. So my first year as commissioner in 2007, the budget that we inherited from my predecessors, because you pass a budget in December and then you give it to whoever's commissioner the next year, was about $90 million. The budget that we're adopting next year for 2013 is about $79 million. So in real dollar amounts, sometimes people play this game about, well, we're making a cut, but you're making a cut from a number that's been inflated, so is it a real cut or not? The simple numbers for folks at home is that in 2007 the budget was $90 million. In 2013 the budget's going to be $79 million for the county. And to put a little bit in perspective, the last time we were at about $79 million at the county in terms of expenditures was 2005. So we're spending money at 2005 levels, real expenditures, no gimmicks. Our revenues for the first time that I've been commissioner, since this recession took hold, we're projecting revenues to slightly grow by about 1.8%. I'm proud to report that the county is is meeting our reserve levels. We have reserve levels which we've focused on trying to achieve of 16% of our budgeted revenues. We're at that level for the first time since the recession's hit. In fact, we're at higher reserve levels today than we were back in 2005 and 2006, which were the boom years for our economy, really the bubble years, I think we can call them right now. And at the same time, the commissioners are laying the foundation to ensure that we have a sustainable budget moving forward. We've proposed to our employees union contracts, which we feel will help ensure that the county's on strong financial footing moving forward, while at the same time being able to attract and retain quality employees. So we're looking at how we bend the expenditure curve to a sustainable level, because to be quite honest, in 2005 and 2006, and I ran the first time for commissioner in 2006, those 2 years, that Board of County Commissioners dipped into reserves to be able to balance payroll to a greater extent than this Board of Commissioners did during 2009 and 2010 during the depths of the recession. So we've been able to get the county in a stable financial footing. We have a reserve level which we believe is at a level that makes sense, and at the same time we're putting in new labor agreements, and we're negotiating with our employees right now on new labor agreements which we think are fiscally responsible, while at the same time honoring the good work that our employees do on behalf of the citizens of this county. So I'm really proud of this budget. I'm proud of the fact that we've weathered what the most challenging economic situation our counties and our community and our nation's faced since the Great Recession, and we really look forward to putting in a framework to be able to ensure that in the long run the county is going to be able to provide services that citizens rely on in a cost-effective manner, and do it in a way that I think any citizen of this county would be proud to see in their local government.
Good, good, good. Well, thanks so much for coming in today, Josh. And
well, I thank you for your tough questions. And the past few months I've been doing more of the commissioners' corners because my two colleagues on the Board of County Commissioners have been running for election. So my promise to you is, now that the election is going to be over here in a few days, you'll be seeing whoever my new colleagues will be, or if they're re-elected, both Commissioner Garrido and Commissioner Gelder, you're going to see possibly my two current colleagues coming back and giving you updates from North Kitsap and South Kitsap. So Central Kitsap hasn't meant to hog the time too much, but we have the past few months because of the election. So I just appreciate, Shar, all the work you do to help the county share what we're working on, and I appreciate everybody who tunes in and watches Commissioner's Corner. Look forward to catching up with you in 2013.